Hey guys, how are you today? I'm here in St. Kilda Beach. It's really nice. Beautiful, beautiful spring day here in Melbourne, which is kind of rare, to be fair. It was raining a lot the last couple of days. So I've been very, very lucky to, well, exactly the day I'm off and that I choose to actually come here. It's absolutely gorgeous. Not a single cloud in the sky. That's awesome. It was a fun drive here as well. Driving through Melbourne is pretty fun. It's a Monday, so you would expect there to be like lots of traffic and all that, especially in the morning going into the city. But it wasn't that bad, and I got here in about half an hour, even though it's like maybe around 10, 12 miles away. So that's not bad, considering city traffic and all that. I wasn't stuck in traffic, that's what I'm trying to say. And I'm here to talk to you about why uh, cool places or good places are normally liberal, and boring places or even bad places in general are normally conservative. So stay tuned. I'm going to give you a lot of different examples. And if you have never made that connection, you might make it now. And if you did make that connection, but you don't know why that is the case, I've got some theories about it. So stay tuned. So the first thing to consider, is this true? Is it actually the case that liberal places are cooler, so to say? And I think it's pretty easy to see. I mean, if you think most liberal places in America, you're gonna go New York, Hawaii, California. They're all like very beautiful, very like lots of things to do, big cities, charming. In general, it's like they have more of an appeal. You're more likely to have a tourist trip to LA and New York than you are to, I don't know, the middle of Kansas or Nebraska or something. And Kansas and Nebraska happen to be some of the most reliably conservative states, Oklahoma, I don't know. So what's the catch? Why are they different? Comes to mind is immigration patterns. If you think about who is more likely to move, let's say, well, you're born in Kansas and there's a class of like 50, 60 people that study with you. The ones that are more likely to move out are people that are naturally more open, and openness is correlated with more liberal thinking. So you could expect that out of 60 people, maybe the five who move out of that city, who move out of that state, are actually the five most liberal ones, or most of them are liberal in general. And then they move to exactly those places that appeal more, which happen to be New York, California, etc. And that has a double effect, where liberal minds leave those more boring states, and at the same time, they get to those more appealing up and coming states. And so it's a double effect, where, for example, states like California, which voted for Reagan in the 80s, now they're insanely liberal because lots of liberal minds around the country felt uh, appealed to go to California, and for many reasons. But in general, what you have to understand is people who are liberal are more likely to move. People who are conservative are less likely to move. And since people tend to move to more appealing places, those places over time tend to become more liberal, whereas places that are less appealing and that have more of a chill or quiet or family lifestyle, and less people move into those places, naturally they're gonna become more conservative over time because there's lots of liberals going out of them, and that's like, well, it's like a brain drain of liberals in that sense. Another reason is that, well, liberal policies, they tend to have very negative consequences in certain aspects. And if a place doesn't have a big of an appeal, then people will just leave. So, like, if Kansas had as many taxes as California, everyone would just leave Kansas. But they don't leave California because it's California, because they got like beaches and the sea and the mountains and nature and jobs. So, like, places that are more up and coming can afford to have bad policy, and that includes taxation. That includes, well, I don't know, not prosecuting people for thefts under $1,000, like they did in California. Just having a bigger welfare state. If it's a good country, people will be willing to put through with this kind of shit. Whereas if it's already bad off, or if it's already got very little going for it, then you're not going to make the change. One example is like Italy and Germany. So, like, Germany It's like not that good of a weather. The Nordic Sea isn't that interesting. Lots of the historical cities and things were destroyed in World War II. So like they have to have a more appealing economy. Whereas like Italy, it has got history. It's got like beautiful places, the sea, Mediterranean, better climate. So like Italy can afford to fuck up, and there will still be Germans thinking and dreaming of moving to Italy because of well the weather and the culture and all that. Whereas like if Italy put itself together in a way that Germany did, for example, and Germany was the one fucking around and being as bureaucratic and as slow as Italy, and then literally everyone would just move to Italy because there would be no appeal to move to Germany. So those natural differences between countries that make some of them more beautiful, some of them more historic, some of them more appealing, also make it so that they can afford to fuck up more before people actually are willing to leave. And that's what you see with a lot of Italians. Italians, they're very pissed about their economy in general, but they're not willing to move. And they're not willing to move, even though there's insane taxes and wages are stagnant and all that. But they're not willing to move because it's Italy, you know? And if it were a less appealing country, if it were a country with more shitty weather, they wouldn't. They would just leave, you know? Why do you think the Nordics have it all so well together? Because because they have to. Like if you're in northern Norway and it just sucks 6 months out of the year, you don't have sun, you it's snowing all the time. Like you have to have a reason to be there. Otherwise, you're just gonna leave. Another example is Ireland and Spain. Both of them were considered well, very problematic countries about like 10, 15 years ago. And they both had to do to make some reformation in terms of economic policy and taxation and all that. But Ireland just had to be much more aggressive because Ireland is just a little island where it rains all the time in the middle of nowhere. Not in the middle of nowhere, but like further away. Whereas Spain has even more history than Ireland. It has much better climate. It's much more charming, so to say. And so the amount of changes that Spain had to do and to make to go back on track, so to say, was much smaller than the amount of changes that Ireland had to do. Spain just did a little like, oh, we're going to give you a little bit of a tax break if you're under that circumstance or that, and then you'll be able to live in Spain. And it worked because people just want to move to Spain for no reason, you know, not for no reason, but it's romanticized. Whereas for people to move to Ireland, Ireland actually has to nearly become a tax haven to actually make people want to move. And when it's not making that, then people just move out, which is why Ireland has one of the biggest uh, migration patterns in history. Like most people just left Ireland. And one last thing that I think we have to consider as well is how rough places kind of mold your personality. So, like, if you're always in California, Southern California weather, uh, you become a little bit soft, you know, because it's never above like 90 degrees and it's never below, I don't know, 40 degrees, and it's sunny all the time. And like, if you're in Minnesota, if you're in South Dakota, I don't know, and it's like minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit in the winter, but it's also 110 in the summer. It gets kind of rough, and you get roughened up, you know? You don't have all the conveniences of living in a big city. Not everything is as easy for you. And that roughening up the personality uh, tends to make people a little less open and thus more conservative as well. So even the weather itself and the roughness of life itself tends to mold people into being more conservative, so to say, more traditional, so to say.